From self-care tactics to mindfulness meditation and the usual cheery demeanor that many self-help gurus have, it should come as no surprise that many self-help gurus love to talk about positivity in one way or another. Perhaps even more so now since we're in the festive season and there's more jubilant music that is playing in every store and on the radio. But one of the things I find so interesting is that for an industry who has so many people loving positivity and the positive vibes, their takes on addressing actual happiness tend to be pretty lacking. After all, while the holiday seasons are seen as very joyful times, they can also be pretty depressing. We're getting less sun, which does affect our own moods. And in the case of those joyful celebrations, those can be harder for some of us than other people, as our close friends or family are no longer here to celebrate that. And that really just sucks. You might not even be that big on spending time with your parents or your family due to the current political polarization that we're going through across the world. But outside of those festive days, we also have to face the reality that there are days that are crappier than others. And the last thing that you really want is some guru to tell you that you should smile more or think more happy thoughts in order to lift yourself up. So I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I want to talk about some strategies on turning those grim or gloomy days into something that's far more manageable. These are strategies that I've personally used too, and the nice thing about them is that anyone can use them. So let's talk about them. Let me start off with the fact that I've already covered something pretty similar to this in the form of unconventional mindfulness tactics. Things like baking, drawing, exercising, or just going for a walk, for example.
Oh, that's that good shit!
All of these things I call proper mindfulness, as they pull away from the traditional mindfulness and self-care tropes where happiness and mood boosting is lumped behind candles, spa days, and bath bombs. These are good starting points to have just more mindfulness in your own life, but we can also go one step further and ensure that we're not fully depending on these strategies and using them as a crutch for our own emotional boosting. Genuine mindfulness would look like you're using these particular strategies or anything else you find mentally soothing as a means of exploring yourself and processing your emotions, for example. Instead of escaping what you're doing, taking some time to genuinely process what you're going through while doing something you find soothing and calming for yourself can make a big difference in your own life. Most importantly, these proper mindfulness tactics can serve as a springboard for the next steps. One of these next steps is to be looking for different viewpoints, as gurus all have different perspectives and experiences and biases on how to handle your issues and achieve your goals. They're not all that bad, but some of them won't be precisely what you're looking for. And all of that is emphasized by a particular quote that spoke about perspective on bad days. Did you have a bad day? Or did you have one problem that you milked all day long? Bad days or even bad years are inevitable, but this really speaks to how changing your perspective is valuable in these tough times. It's easy for us to play the victim card and never reflect or consider that we're the problem or what the problem actually is.
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
That is until you actually pause and explore what exactly happened and what you can do to actually solve this. In some cases, it very well could be that latter portion where you've just had a bad moment and it's not necessarily a bad day, but you're so focused on making it everyone's problem, it becomes so much bigger than it just ought to be. And if it was genuinely a bad idea, then it's worth looking at the particular problems and being more active in addressing the underlying issues around it. What this looks like is being more introspective and asking yourself questions like, will this matter in 5 years from now? What is one small thing that I could actually do to turn this day or situation around for the better? Oftentimes, questions are really the pause that we need to readjust and see things with more clarity and from a different perspective. And actively seeking those out can provide more refreshing or effective methods than sticking to what you typically do, especially if you have a tendency to shift the blame and play as the sole victim in this problem. But what if the situation isn't just some benign issue? What if it's more complex and you're in a more depressing spot? Rather than stewing in your own emotions, try to set them aside and focus entirely on being nice to someone else. To perform a single act of kindness.
A true, selfless act always sparks another.
The reason I know this strategy works wonders is this is the exact thing that I did after a close family relative passed away and I wasn't there to see them off. The news came as a shock to me, and coincidentally, the day after I got that news, I agreed to do some fundraising for a local charity. Days before. Considering the mental state that I was in, I didn't really feel like attending this. I felt like just ditching this event entirely because I was just in this very dark place. But for some reason, I just dragged myself out there. I gave myself the benefit of the doubt and said, hey, just go out there and do something nice for someone. And by the end of it, I was feeling so much better. It really helped me. Yeah, I did have to fake a smile, and I had to pretend that I was far more composed than I actually was. But something like that can make a positive impact and make a difference for you and for other people, possibly. Now, do you need to do something that big in order to see some results? No. Some smaller options can be just reaching out to a friend or another family member and asking them if you could help them out with something. Or you could also just do a random act of kindness to a complete stranger. With so many people that are just looking out for themselves, especially during these days, it takes a great deal of effort to reach out your hand and help someone out. And so that single act of kindness is kind of an act of defiance to your own emotions, and you can find some catharsis in that. You can find some solace in that, and it's incredibly powerful. Another common strategy to processing your emotions is often to do something else entirely, but I think we can do one step better. Focus on something tangible that improves our lives and it affects others in a positive way, similar to the act of kindness that I just talked about. With this particular strategy, it is more individual focused. The sentiment comes from some advice that I heard years ago about how to handle a bad breakup. The idea was, after that happened, dedicate yourself to going to the gym and just working out. Alternatively, you can use that downtime to just focus on your own career or pick up a hobby that you've been wanting to pick up and just really focus in on that. When you're having a bad day, this same sort of logic is applicable as well. Finding something simple that you can pour yourself into is essentially just another extension of the mindfulness point that I also made. However, the trick here is to keep it going for much longer than just an hour or two. Really make it into a habit and part of your own life. And if you really need some help with focusing, well, I uploaded a video that will help with keeping your focus and setting goals for the next year. And after all that is said and done, if you have the privilege to do so, you can also use that downtime to lean into that self-discovery. I'm sure these techniques are already giving off that sort of vibe, but some specific things that I could also recommend trying to do are things like talking to yourself about what you experienced and how you feel. Using those emotions to drive you in a particular action that you want to be taking that is healthy for you. Of course, every problem or rough day is very nuanced, so your actions are going to vary on what is going to be appropriate at that point in time. But doing what you can that lets you confront those emotions head on and change how you engage with whatever you're dealing with is better than ruminating or getting bummed out or playing the victim card or shifting the blame.
Things are going to get much better.
It leads to just more proactiveness, healing, and maybe it also leads to other people being more introspective as well, as your own actions can spark someone to really think about their own actions or behaviors. No doubt we wish for our days to always be a vibe and absolutely delightful and pleasant, but seeking that out constantly is not a sustainable thing for you to pursue in the real world. It's not realistic to constantly yearn for just one emotion and deny the existence of other emotions or try to dampen them or smother them. By addressing your emotions and finding gentler ways to address them and process them, you can find it easier to bounce back after having a bad day. And if you do that enough times, you create an emotional support system that can help you hurdle through any emotional obstacle. And that can make a huge difference in your own life. Thank you guys so much for watching the entirety of this video. It would really mean a lot to me if you clicked on the like button and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I love you guys.